I have to get the voice of our people out there. I lived in the United States for 12 years. I went to school there. I had my child there in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I know what the U.S. heart is all about. You know, you are intelligent, daring people. So I just don't understand why things have become so complicated and the logistics are so unsurmountable.
I gotta say, it hurts me so much to hear so many people on this island say to me and say to reporters, we're Americans. We're Americans, that they have to explain that as if we shouldn't know that. I mean, I just find that so, I think it says something about the way people here feel about the way things have been handled.
There's a lot of linked history. There's a lot of cross-moving. There's people in Orlando, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Houston. Every time there is a problem, we are the kind of people that share our sorrows, but also share our triumphs. And we just don't understand, and sorry, maybe I'm too tired, I get a little emotional, but you know, we're dying here. We truly are dying here, and I keep saying it, SOS, if anyone can hear us, you know, if Mr. Trump can hear us, let's just get it over with and get the ball rolling.
I recognize that President Trump is a counterpuncher, Andre. I know that's his brand. He's been saying that and doing that for 30 or 40 years. But is it ever appropriate to counterpunch, even if you think you've been punched, and we can argue that whether he's been punched or not by anyone in Puerto Rico, even if you think he has been punched, is it presidential to punch back in the middle of a catastrophe?
It's presidential because Donald Trump did it, and he's the president, and he's not following
Don't do the circle.
He is a CEO businessman that is changing Washington, and I elected him.
He's not even in Washington today, Andre. He's at his golf resort in New Jersey. Yesterday, talking about Tom Price, he said, I didn't like the optics of Tom Price flying on private jets. Well, then he flew on a private jet, a military plane, of course, to his golf resort. What about those optics today? He's in the same place he was last weekend. Now he's there again this weekend.
You don't like it, work against him in the next election. You didn't want him to get elected before. The people of America are sick of the same old thing going on wherever it is.
Most Americans actually are opposed to this president, and many Americans think he's a racist. He has a race problem. And when he tweets about Puerto Rico saying that they need a handout, he actually makes his race problem worse. And when he does that from his golf course in New Jersey...
I know you keep drilling and beating that, but he's the president, and it's going to be the same tomorrow. So I hate it for you, but he's your president, too.
From Illinois, Luis Gutierrez. He grew up in Puerto Rico. He still has family there. Certainly a personal issue for him. Congressman Gutierrez, thank you for being there, first of all. Thank you for joining us tonight. You heard the president say today that his team, in his words, is doing an incredible job. And yet we heard that very emotional comment from the mayor of San Juan, mad as hell, almost moved to tears. What's the reality on the ground?
The reality on the ground is the one that your reporters are telling the American people. They're handing out maybe a bottle of water and one meal to a family of 5 or 6. And that was after 8 days. And some towns, not even that. I think it isn't a good job. It's a disgraceful job. The United States of America is the most powerful, wealthiest country in the world. And this is not a response that's demonstrative of our power and our wealth. And I'm tired of the president always talking about children and the elderly and the infirm. And we should begin an operation to also evacuate people from this island, especially the elderly, especially those that have sicknesses, until they can return to an island to rebuild it. But right now, I think we also need to talk to, I was with the mayor of San Juan. We sat down with the director of FEMA this afternoon. Here's good news. Tomorrow, all of the hospitals in San Juan will be getting a regular supply of petroleum so that they can keep in operation. He promised me that tomorrow there'll be 1.7 million meals delivered to Puerto Rico and 2.5 million liters of water. And I begged and implored him, because I don't want to hold responsible the employees on the front lines. The command has to come from Washington, D.C., from the commander-in-chief. And I would hope that as he likes to talk about the fire and the fury of the armed forces of the United States, that he bring them to Puerto Rico with that same fire and fury to save the people of Puerto Rico from what is going to be a disaster here in this island.
To Puerto Rico today to meet with the governor and our unified command team on the ground. I needed to see it in person to assess, to see how making sure that we all had the assets we need to continue the recovery. And yesterday, I was asked if I was happy and satisfied with the recovery. I am proud of the work that's being done. I am proud of Americans helping Americans, friends and strangers alike. I am proud of the work that DOD, FEMA, and the territory, along with first responders, are doing. Clearly, the situation here in Puerto Rico after the devastating hurricane is not satisfactory, but together we are getting there, and the progress to date is very, very strong.
You were listening to Elaine Duke, acting Homeland Security Secretary, came down to Puerto Rico today. Definitely getting some heat for saying that the response so far was, quote, a good news story. She responded a bit there, saying she's proud of Americans helping each other. The mayor of San Juan weighed in on Elaine Duke's original comments.
This is not a good news story. This is a people are dying story. This is a life or death story. There's a truckload of stuff that cannot be taken to people's story. This is a story of a devastation that continues to worsen because people are not getting food and water. If I could scream it a lot more louder, it is not a good news story when people are dying, when they don't have dialysis, when their generators aren't working and their oxygen isn't providing for them.
To be clear there, that was the mayor responding earlier this morning to Elaine Duke, who had originally said this.
I am very satisfied. I know it's a hard storm to recover from, but the amount of progress that's been made, and I really would appreciate any support that we get. I know it is really a good news story in terms of our ability to reach people. Puerto Rico today to meet with the governor and our unified command team on the ground. I needed to see it in person to assess, how making sure that we all had the assets we need to continue the recovery. And yesterday, I was asked if I was happy and satisfied with the recovery. I am proud of the work that's being done. I am proud of Americans helping Americans, friends and strangers alike. I am proud of the work that DOD, FEMA, and the territory, along with first responders, are doing. Clearly, the situation here in Puerto Rico after the devastating hurricane is not satisfactory, but together we are getting there, and the progress to date is very, very strong.
You were listening to Elaine Duke, acting Homeland Security Secretary, came down to Puerto Rico to today. Definitely getting some heat for saying that the response so far was, quote, a good news story. She responded a bit there, saying she's proud of Americans helping each other. The mayor of San Juan weighed in on Elaine Duke's original comments.
This is not a good news story. This is a people are dying story.